Well, hi, everybody. Ken Johnson here, and Weatherman Cam will show up here in just a little bit, talk a little bit about some interesting things. But at least to start with tonight across the central and southern plain states, weather's pretty nice. And tomorrow, we're talking about Friday, the weather could be really mild down this way. I'm talking about some 70s showing up. But don't get used to it because old man winter is going to play some cruel jokes on us by this upcoming weekend, and especially early next week. We've been talking about it for several days now. On TV and on the app and on our social media channels here, and it's coming into the U.S. now. Here's the front. It's north of us up here into Canada now, and tomorrow it's going to surge all the way through the central and into the southern plain states. And at least initially, we don't get the brunt of the cold air. We're going to get a shot of cold air that's going to come in, and then the brunt comes down as we head into late weekend and early next week. We can look on top of the globe, and this is where the cold air is. It's sitting up here across the northern provinces of Canada over towards Greenland. We look at this cold air over the North Poles and back into Siberia. And typically speaking, the coldest air on planet Earth, or some of the coldest air on planet Earth, originates in Siberia. It's colder than Arctic air, and you'd think it'd be the opposite. Weatherman Cam Lindsay is here now to tell you what the difference is, or tell us what the difference is between a regular cold front Arctic air and this Siberian air.
Yeah, Ken, we'll be talking about the difference from the cold front to the Arctic air to the Siberian air. But we'll start with first looking at our couple of cold air masses that we deal with here in North Texas. The first one is going to be just your atypical cold front. We get those year-round. Those bring some changes to our weather, can feel cool behind it, and pull our temperatures slightly below average behind it. Next up is the Arctic air. That can bring some big changes with it and bring our temperatures anywhere from 15 to 25 degrees below average. The next one is the big one. The big one we are tracking right now is that Siberian air that brings some major changes to our weather pattern. It can pull our temperatures anywhere from 25 to 35 plus degrees below average. So let's talk about what is happening in the atmosphere, what is going on. Let's take a look at the jet stream. This pink jet stream here, that is our polar jet stream. That helps to keep the cold air bottled up far into the far north parts of the globe. The purple there, that's your Siberian air. That's the really cold air. And of course, the pink is the Arctic air that resides over the North Pole, places like Alaska and far northern Canada. What we're going to see happen here is we're going to see the high pressure here over the Pacific. This sits here pretty much year-round, but what we are tracking with our weather here is that it's going to push up to the north. As it does that, it's going to move into our polar jet stream. That's going to force it to take a deep, far south dive. And when that happens, that's going to open the door for that Siberian air to flow into the United States, bringing lots of cold, cold weather for our good chunky country, because the polar jet is letting a lot of that air flow in off the Siberian tundra, and that's going to settle in and bring us that really cold temperatures for not just here in North Texas, but a lot of the United States over the next week. But here we go. You might think Arctic air should be colder than Siberian air, but that makes sense, but it's actually not. Siberian air is colder than the Arctic. It comes from the Siberian tundra, and the reason it's different is because it does not radiate heat well. Up in the Arctic, they have the ice caps. Those ice caps help to radiate the temperatures that much better up there. So you would think the Arctic is colder, but because of the lack of ice up there in the Siberian tundra, we don't see it as cold up there in the Arctic regions.
Oh, thanks a lot, Cameron. You learn something every day here. I've been doing for weather over 20 years, and I've always known that Siberian air is some of the coldest air on planet Earth, but Cameron enlightened me on it and explained why. So I learned something new here. I guess you can teach an old dog new tricks, right? So anyway, there is your cold Arctic air up to the north here over Canada, and it's going to be dropping southward here, and we're going to watch this area back over here just near or just east of Alaska. This is where the cold air is going to come, and as soon as we get that first shot here Saturday, it opens up the gates. It opens up the floodgates and allows for that Siberian air to pour southward and cover a good part of the U.S. So this is what we're expecting with that Siberian blast. Some of the first waves into the southern United States comes Saturday, and then the second wave arrives late Sunday and early next week. We're looking at, in parts of the region here, below freezing for at least 48 hours next week. Could be up to 84, especially if we don't see temperatures rise above freezing on Sunday. In some places, we'll see below freezing hours, probably even longer than 84 hours here across the region. So high temperatures during this time will mostly be in the 20s, lows, teens, and single digits. And some of those real feels it's better known as the wind chill, will be down near zero, if not lower, at times. But out ahead of that front, again, Friday, the weather looks good in Oklahoma and down into north and central Texas. Mild and breezy weather. Oh, there could be some showers over in this area, but the big front arrives late Friday and into Saturday, blustery and turning a lot colder behind this front here. And as we head into Sunday and early next week, there's your frigid air pouring in from the north here. This is that Siberian air, and that's going to be the coldest air we've seen maybe in a couple of years here. You can think back to 2021. That was a large area of Siberian air that covered most of the U.S. This is similar, but probably not quite as large, not quite as cold, and it won't be quite as long-lasting. That one, at least across a good part of Texas, Oklahoma, 10-plus days below freezing here. And as far as wintry precipitation goes, this type of pattern doesn't bode well for a big winter storm in the central and at least parts of the southern plain states, but it could bode well for a winter storm down here along the Gulf Coast and maybe deep south Texas. So this is a scenario early to mid next week. A system coming out of the west-southwestern part of the country here allows for some ice and snow to develop in central and southern parts of Texas. And from there, there's some indications that this could move over into the Gulf Coast. Maybe Louisiana, parts of Mississippi, Alabama could see some ice and snow out of scenario number one. Basically, both scenarios would bring wintry precipitation to the deep south. Now, scenario number two might have at least a clipping shot at giving some light snow into North Texas, southern Oklahoma, but a better chance for the wintry stuff down here into central and southern Texas. And again, ice down there into deep south Texas would be possible. And this might bring a bigger winter storm to the southern and southeastern part of the country early to mid next week. It's still a little bit early. We're only sitting at Thursday here. Still a little bit early to make the call on that. The area that we're watching, of course, there's your polar vortex sending that cold air to the south. We're watching areas of disturbed weather back here on the back side of all that cold air. Notice how the atmosphere really stretched out here. There's that ridge of high pressure that Cameron was talking about pushing up into Canada. So warmer air up this way, colder air pouring to the south. There's your disturbance that's creating the lift and pulling in that moisture. And the way the trajectory is with this system would bode well for winter weather along the Gulf Coast. And if cold enough air can get far enough to the south, there may even be some winter weather in parts of northern Florida with that. It does happen every so often. So here's the European computer model here. I'm going to show you that to you and kind of talk about it a little bit here. You can see at least with the first little batch of cold air moving in on Saturday evening, maybe some snow flurries with that, maybe some snow showers back to the west. Here comes that next system, Sunday night and Monday, bringing some light snow showers to parts of Oklahoma and Texas. And when the air is that cold, cold air just doesn't hold moisture well. So any type of precipitation you get, even if it's showing up as light, can still present problems. So we'll keep an eye on that. We're watching there. This is the European computer model showing snow in Austin, Texas, San Antonio, Texas, Houston, Texas, maybe some heavy snow at that. And it does. And it has happened before where Houston has seen up to 6 inches of snow. Down into Corpus Christi, even deep south Texas, perhaps winter weather there. And you can see it extending east over here into Louisiana and parts of Mississippi. So this part of the data, this part of the weather data, we'll have to just kind of keep an eye on. That's not a done deal, but what is a done deal is the bitterly cold air that's headed to the south. So Siberian blast impacts. We head into early next week, and this is across my viewing area, which is North Texas, southern Oklahoma here. Low impacts to the roads, unless we do get some moisture. It wouldn't take much to give problems, so we'll keep an eye on that. Power outages. As of right now, at least the reports are that the infrastructure here in the state of Texas is looking pretty good, and we should not have a repeat of what happened in 2021, but we'll keep an eye on that too. But you just never know, especially down to the south where the wintry precipitation are. Could be some issues there. Not worried about school or business closings, but this type of cold air, again, pipe bursting weather. That's what you have to worry about when you have the extended period where the temperatures are below freezing here for a couple of days here. That's when those pipes can freeze. So what you should do between now and early on Saturday here is make sure to wrap those outside faucets. The firewood should already be brought up for those of you that have a fireplace. Make sure you check the antifreeze in the car, the battery, and the tire pressure. Remember, cold air and cold weather will zap the energy out of your battery, and it will also deflate your tires. So make sure your windows and doors are sealed up nicely. Check on the elderly. Make sure they have a way to stay warm. This is the cold weather, type of cold air that can be bad for people here. And also, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, just prepare a place inside where the heater is for your pets if you do have outdoor animals, that is. Well, that's all we have for right now. Of course, as this cold blast, the Siberian blast of air invades the U.S., we'll continue to have updates, and we'll also watch for any signs of those wintry precipitation chances. But right now, it looks like the best chances for those would be across and along the Gulf Coast and deep South Texas. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe to my social media pages.